All right, welcome to question 14 of the AAMC preview practice exam. All right, let's just jump right into it. Question 14. You have a paid position as a tutor for a group of pre-med students. Excuse me. Your supervisor relies on you to independently schedule and conduct tutoring sessions. 10 minutes before a scheduled tutoring session, you remember that you need to attend a final exam review session during the same 2-hour time frame. The final exam is 50% of your final grade, and you are worried that you won't do as well on the final exam if you miss the review session. All right, so, just the first thing after I read this question, what I'm thinking of is it's actually pretty similar to some other questions we've encountered before, just phrased a little bit differently, right? Like if you'll remember question 1, this question is fairly similar to that, but instead of a volunteer opportunity, we have this exam review, and instead of the required lab, we have this tutoring position. And yeah, so there are very clear parallels to that question, and kind of this theme of there's a conflict of responsibilities, right? So let's think back and remember what we learned from that question. Well, some of the things we gathered was that we got to make sure we complete our required activity, right? And doing that often led to effective or very effective answers, while giving up on our required obligations often led to very ineffective or ineffective answers. And for a very effective answer, often effective compromises, right? Compromises which fulfill all of our needs and obligations, often those are what give us 4 answers, right? So that's kind of in the back of our minds. Every question is different. It's gonna have its own considerations, of course, but that's kind of what I'm thinking of, right? So what's our main problem here? Just keeping it pretty simple. There's a time conflict between our scheduled tutoring job and an important review session that is occurring in 10 minutes. All right, so let's jump into 14.1. Conduct a tutoring session for 1 hour instead of 2, and then attend the second hour of the exam review. All right, so let's think back, let's go to our initial differentiation that we've kind of gathered so far. And, I think this first one, remember, we kind of used this first one for our first question, and it seems to be pretty applicable here too, right? So let's just start off with it and see where we can get. Are you fulfilling your responsibilities? Now remember, we have a responsibility and obligation towards our tutoring session, right? Because we've already established that we're doing it. It's a paid position, and we have a supervisor who is overlooking us, right? The review session, although it's very, very important, it's more or less optional, right? So, okay, so with that, are we fulfilling our responsibilities? Are we attending and conducting our tutoring session? Well, sort of, right? We're doing like half kind of thing. We're doing it for 1 hour instead of 2. Yeah, so we're kind of fulfilling our responsibility. We're kind of not, but we are trying to look for a compromise, right? We're looking for, if you go to our second question here, are you taking steps to address the main problem? We are taking steps to address the main problem, right? And we're sort of fulfilling our responsibility. Okay, I'm just gonna give this a 2 or a 3, right? Just because. Oh, all right. Let me erase this. I don't know where this came from. A 2 or 3, right? Just because we're sort of fulfilling our responsibilities, we're sort of addressing the problem. This is somewhere in the middle for sure. All right, so how do we differentiate between a 2 or a 3? Let's look back. Are you taking personal responsibility for solving the problem? Are you offering a solution to the main problem? How are we impacting relevant stakeholders? So we're taking some responsibility, right? But we're still kind of giving up on our tutoring obligation. Are you offering a solution? You're offering some solution, right? But if we look at how we're impacting the relevant stakeholders, well, our students rely on us in order to conduct the tutoring session so they can, you know, do well in their courses. And because we are prioritizing our own needs over the needs of our students, those we have an obligation towards, we've already established this tutoring session, we're acting fairly selfishly, and this is gonna cause a problem, right? What's the likelihood of causing a problem? This is gonna cause a problem for our students who, they deserve to get a full session because that is the obligation we have towards them, and they are not getting that. For all those reasons, this is gonna be a 2, right? This is gonna be a 2 answer. All right. An ineffective answer. Okay. So let's go back and go into 14.2. All right. Notify the pre-med students that today's tutoring session has been canceled because you have an exam review. All right, so, let's go back. Are we fulfilling our responsibility, right? Are you fulfilling your responsibility? No, we're not, right? We're giving it up completely. Unlike the last question where we somewhat did it, this time we're just canceling the tutoring session 10 minutes before. Yeah, we're totally giving up. This is going to be a 1 or a 2. So differentiating between a 1 or a 2. All right, to what extent are you recognizing there's an issue, offering a solution, or relinquishing your responsibilities? We're definitely relinquishing our responsibilities, right? We're not offering any type of solution to the conflict. There's clearly consequences, right? We have a supervisor who's holding us accountable, and also the students are going to suffer. We're disengaging totally. This is a very, rude answer. We're prioritizing our needs over the needs of our students. Big problem. All right, so we go through the list. All of those kind of justify that this is a very ineffective answer. All right. 14.3. Ask your professor if they can postpone the exam review so that you can attend. Okay, so let's go back to our differentiation. All right, here we go. Are you fulfilling your responsibilities? Well, are we fulfilling our responsibilities here? It's not too clear, right? We're not really saying whether or not we are going to conduct a review session, so I'm not too sure. Okay, so if that doesn't work, let's just go through the rest of these, right? And let's see what kind of analysis we can derive from the rest of these questions. Are you taking steps to resolve or address the main problem? Well, somewhat, right? We're taking, we are taking some steps. We're trying to find a compromise that could potentially allow us to, do both of our activities. So maybe this is some sort of step, although, we're still not sure if we're going to attend our tutoring session, but, this is some sort of compromise. We're giving some sort of solution, potentially. How likely is this to cause a problem? Well, this is definitely likely to cause a problem too, right? I mean, at the least, it's going to inconvenience your professor, but especially if this postponement is granted, then you're not only going to inconvenience the professor, but the other students, right? Who knows if they can attend the postponed exam review. Maybe this was the only time that other students could attend the review. So, to some degree, this is also very inconvenient, going to cause a problem, but you are offering a solution. I'm just going to put this into a 2 or a 3, right? I'm just going to put this into a 2 or 3. All right, so how do we differentiate between a 2 or 3? Are you taking personal responsibility for solving the problem? Are you offering a solution to the main problem? How are you impacting relevant stakeholders? What's the likelihood of causing a problem? Okay, so we are somewhat taking responsibility, but it's not a step that, totally, it kind of relies on the professor postponing the review in order to achieve the solution. And it is somewhat of a solution, right? That will allow us to attend both our tutoring session and the exam review. But if we definitely look at all the stakeholders again, right? Once again, it seems like we're prioritizing our needs over the needs of other students and the professor, right? And remember, we kind of got into this situation because we just forgot that both of these things were occurring at the same time. Is it really fair that we ask the professor to delay and postpone the review in order to make sure we go to it at the expense of potentially other students? Yeah, I'm not too sure. This is not boding well for us. It seems like this is more of a selfish act, and there's some likelihood for causing a problem because we're inconveniencing others, right? And this solution isn't really taking into account the perspective of other students and how they could be impacted, and couple that with the fact that we're just unsure that we're going to attend our own tutoring session that just wasn't addressed. I don't feel comfortable putting this into an effective response. Just a selfish nature of the of this response puts this into a 2. It doesn't really regard it doesn't really take into account the perspective of other students and could potentially harm them. So I'm going to put that into a ineffective answer. All right. That was 14.3. So let's jump into 14.4. All right. Conduct a tutoring session and ask a trusted classmate if they will share their notes from the review session. Okay. So, let's go back. Are we fulfilling our responsibilities, right? Are we fulfilling our responsibilities? Clearly we are, right? We have an obligation towards our students, and we are conducting the tutoring session. So we're doing that, very clearly. I'm going to put this into a 3 or a 4. All right. Differentiating between a 3 and a 4 here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. Are you finding a compromise? We're definitely finding a compromise, right? We are finding a way to get the most out of a review session while also attending the tutoring session. So we're doing that. All relevant stakeholders, they are not burdened. The only, we potentially are getting less out of the review session because we're not there. But we kind of did make this mistake ourselves. We just we scheduled 2 things at the same time, and we're still trying to get the most out of it, right? We're still trying to get the most out of our review session. And the wording here is also very relevant, right? It's a trusted classmate. That kind of emphasizes that the solution, will still be beneficial, and we're still going to try to get the most out of the session. And this is a very actionable step, right? It's a very actionable step. It's very clear what we're going to do. And all those point me towards a 4 response. All right, 14.5. I believe we're on 5, right? Yes, 14.5. Ask the pre-med students to conduct the tutoring session on their own because you need to attend the exam review. Okay, so let's go back. Are we fulfilling our responsibilities, right? Are we fulfilling our responsibilities? Clearly we are not, right? Clearly we are not. So we're asking the students to conduct the session themselves. Yeah, that's not really how a tutoring session works. And ultimately, it's if not only are we not fulfilling our responsibilities, but going back to this is, we have an obligation towards our students, right? And what we're doing here is we're kind of just giving up on finding a solution. We're definitely relinquishing our responsibilities. There's, we're in no way trying to make sure that our students get the best tutoring session that they need. We're definitely prioritizing our needs over the needs of others and causing a problem. Yeah, I mean, the students are going to be their review is going to be harmed, and the learning is going to be harmed, and it's our obligation to ensure it's not. So we can put this in very ineffective confidently. All right. (14.6). All right, contact the pre-med students to identify an alternate time to conduct the tutoring session. Okay, so let's ask, are we fulfilling our responsibilities? Are you fulfilling your responsibilities? And, you might be tempted to think that we're not fulfilling our responsibilities because we, are so clearly not honoring the time that we set out. But, if you look at this scenario, we have to realize that part of our part of our responsibilities is that where's my pencil? Oh, there it is. Part of our responsibilities is to independently, schedule. Let me underline this just so it's clear. Part of our responsibility is to, what does it say that? Yeah, independently schedule and conduct tutor sessions, And why would the AAMC put this in here? It's a bit of an odd detail to put in, but nonetheless a very important detail, right? Because this context is telling us that although, it might seem that we are not honoring the time and therefore relinquishing our responsibilities, rather, in fact, it's totally within our scope in this position in order to find alternate times. And we are still completing our responsibility, right? But, very clearly you can tell we're not doing it to the fullest extent because this is going to burden students who were, coming to our tutoring session in 10 minutes. This is clearly going to burden them, but we are not relinquishing our responsibilities as this is still within our scope to schedule tutoring sessions. For that reason, this is going to be somewhere in the middle, right? It's either going to be a 2 or a 3 because we're kind of up in the air. We are burdening those we have an obligation towards. Nonetheless, we are still within the bounds of our duties. So let's see how to differentiate a 2 and a 3. All right. Are you taking personal responsibility for solving the problem? Are you offering a solution to the main problem? How are you impacting relevant stakeholders? Was the likelihood of causing a problem? Okay, so I'm going to add one more here. I'm going to add, are you fulfilling your responsibilities? And if we go through these, this first one, are we taking personal responsibility? We are being proactive in a sense, and it's not very proactive because it's only 10 minutes, but nonetheless, we are still offering some solution to the problem, right? How are we impacting stakeholders? Well, we are definitely burdening the students, right? That's what got us into differentiating between a 2 or 3 in the first place. We are burdening them, but the burdening is mitigated, right? Because we're trying to find and identify an alternate time. So we are communicating with the students and making sure that we find a time that works for everyone. So although we are burdening them, right, that burden is mitigated to some extent. And the likelihood of causing a problem, well, if we do find a time that works for everyone, we can still do the tutoring session. And so there is a likelihood, but it's definitely being lessened because of the word of the phrasing of the response. And we're still fulfilling our responsibilities, right? We're still within the bounds of our duties, still doing what we're not totally missing out and relinquishing our obligation towards the students. Therefore, this is going to be a 3 response. All right, and I think that's it. That is all we have for question 14. And yeah, that's it. So if you have any questions or comments, I did think this question was a little bit tougher than the others, but we got it done. And nonetheless, this is all a practice exam. So whatever happens, however you did on this question, just view it as a learning opportunity. And let's move on to question 15. If you did like the video, please like the video and share it with others, and subscribe if you can. It really helps push this playlist to other people. So yeah, I will see y'all for question 15.